Do you have a famous ancestor? If so, what were they known for? He's not extremely famous now, but my great-great-grandfather was Joe Fox. Joe Fox was a famous English boxer in the 1920s. He won a Lonsdale belt by the time he was 23 when that achievement was very competitive, and I think he ended up winning 3 total. I remember my grandma showing it to me in a glass display box before we sent it to a museum. My uncle is a Power Ranger. You may know him as the Green Ranger or Jason David Frank. He's known as a Power Ranger and is working on another Kickstarter movie and even has his own karate class. William Randolph Hearst, famous for being Citizen Kane. James Naismith, creator of basketball, was my great-great-uncle, or half. My grandfather was Alfred Einstein. He was Albert's cousin. Houdini, the magician, was my great-grandmother's cousin. Not sure that is considered an ancestor. Both Robert E. Lee and William T. Sherman. One led the Confederate forces and the other burned down Atlanta and everything in his path on the way there. My uncle is a famous singer from Ireland. He's not big in the US but massive everywhere else. He's part of a band called Westlife. His name is Shane Phelan. He's still alive, but yeah, there you go. I have 2. John Adams. And John Quincy Adams. Edit. My lineage apparently got around. Johann Sebastian Bach. One of his daughters married into my family. Which makes him my great-great-great-great-great-great-grandfather. Related to Bridget Bishop. First woman hung in the Salem witch trials. One of great-great-grandfathers invented the Gatling gun. Jim Bowie. Died at the Alamo. Johann Jakob Astor. John Jacob Astor was a German-American businessman, merchant, real estate mogul and investor who mainly made his fortune in a fur trade monopoly and by investing in real estate in or around New York City. Known for first multi-millionaire businessman in the United States, still living in his hometown, and he is still sort of getting glorified here. I'm poor though. Martin Luther. The leader of the Protestant Reformation. King Christian IX of Denmark. To flex or not to flex? I guess. With all the incest going on in that family tree. Generally, if you are in any European royal bloodline, chances are you share blood with all the royal houses. I tried claiming I'm lost Princess Anastasia. But I think that joke's a bit old now. Ulysses S. Grant. Civil War general and 18th President of the U.S. 2. Actually. Daniel Boone. Pioneer and explorer of the 1700s and Rebecca Nurse. One of the women hung as a witch in Salem. Also. He's not especially famous. But my grandfather is a World War II vet who served both at Normandy and Midway. Jesse James. Known for being an outlaw. Edit. Hello to all of you fellow Jesse James relations. Who knew Reddit could serve as a distant potential relative family reunion? My great-great-uncle murdered an FBI agent and subsequently spent time in Alcatraz. He was there at the same time as Machine Gun Kelly and Al Capone. For those curious, his name is Guy Osborne and he murdered Truett E. Rowe. I found this when I was tracing my genealogy last year. I went down a long rabbit hole, but it was so interesting. He is also mentioned in a book by, if I remember correctly, Franklin Roosevelt. Joseph Smith. Creator of the Mormon Church. I'm actually through the line of his brother Hiram. But what you gonna do? Doc Holliday. He was a gambler, gunfighter and dentist. Was part of the gunfight at the OK Corral in 1881. He was on the Mayflower. And fell off. Napoleon Bonaparte. Some random French guy that took over Spain. King Edward I, although to be fair I have heard it is common to be related to royalty. Especially in England. Also it's obvious what they were famous for. William of Normandy. Conqueror of England. Edit. Sons and daughters of Normandy, we must rally together and wage conflict with our rivals the descendants of Godwinston. Light good-natured conflict though. My uncle, might be great-uncle, is Elvis Presley. We share my great-x3 grandparents. Sadly my family isn't close enough to know his family directly. My family used to be something WAAAAY back in the day, since there's a castle in Wales and a basilica in Montreal bearing our name. Assuming they don't just hand those out to everyone. Somewhere along the way some squandered everything before I could. Because I definitely wasn't born into a wealthy family. Well, I enjoy saying this only because I am related to him in the most distant way possible. George Washington is my great-X7 step-uncle-in-law by adoption. Cool, right? Genghis Khan. Famous for global bloodbaths. Probably not as impressive as others. But my great-grandpa's family had the first bulldog in Utah. I'm a direct descendant of the McCoys. If you've heard of the Hatfield and McCoy feud, you know why they're famous. H.H. Holmes, a.k.a. Herman Mudgett, notorious serial killer, first known in the Western world, had a murder hotel built, hired and fired different contractors to conceal what was really being built. Edit. Details. We recently learnt that on my father's side we are related to Gustav Vasa, former king of Sweden. Sadly, the child was from a servant girl and it doesn't count in any other way than a fun fact. Leonardo da Vinci. My Nona was identified as one of his living relatives. Leonardo never had children, so they found the children of his siblings and relatives of his father's family. I'm related to the bald guy who posed for the American Gothic painting with the pitchfork. I looked it up, and it turns out he's my fourth cousin. Twice removed. Hitler's my ancestor through marriage, not blood. He was known for getting kicked out of art school. I believe. Edit. Ooh. Shinies. And karma. Too. Thanks for the love, or the hate. But we don't talk about those people here. Apparently my great-great-aunt dated the person who started Rite Aid. And I'm distantly related to someone who helped found Budweiser. My mom's cousin is Ryan Merriman. He was a Disney star and starred in Luck of the Irish, Smart House, etc. My dad isn't famous, but he met a lot of famous people. He was Wu-Tang Clan's tech guy and toured with them for a bit. He built Taylor Swift's recording studio. Same thing with Kesha, and has met Stevie Wonder several times. His ex-wife is also an award-winning Christian bluegrass artist. My family owned a significant portion of Ireland, known as Fermanagh County, or known to some as Maguire County. My surname is Maguire. My great-great-great-uncle is L. Frank Baum, writer of a little-known book called The Wizard of Oz. Edit. Wow. Thanks for the likes. Lots of Oz fans round these parts. Huh. Second edit. Up votes. Not likes. Sorry about that. Not sure if direct descendant. But an ancestor of mine is Meriwether Lewis. Of Lewis and Clark. My grandfather found out some time ago. I am a descendant of John Billington, original Mayflower settler, signer of the Mayflower Compact, malcontent, and first man executed in America by hanging. September 30, 1630. Geronimo. I'm not sure what he's famous for, but people yell his name when jumping from high places. But seriously, he was a famous Apache leader. Charlemagne. I'm pretty sure he conquered a little bit of Italy or something. Edit. Spelling, I guess Charlemagne is a rapper or something, so I had to fix that. My seventh great-grandmother was scalped by Native Americans during the Western expansion. She sacrificed herself to save the other women and children in the village while the men were out hunting. She was left for dead a mile or two away from their compound. She was able to return and have 4 more kids after the incident. One of them is in my bloodline. Vincent van Gogh's grandma is in my family line. He did some artsy stuff. Catherine Parr. Henry VIII's last wife. Famous for being the survived of the famous rhyme. Stole a pound of opium from a Confederate medical tent and deserted. Was found dead in a cave 3 days later, surrounded by alcohol bottles with most of the opium gone. My great-grandma was the first pregnant person to be given penicillin. She was pregnant with my grandma at the time, so it seems like I owe my life to some funky mold. Robert Quinn. Governor of Rhode Island from 1937 to 1939. I am Egyptian. Researchers say we are 90% same genes like those mummies in the Egyptian Museum. My grandpa is a mummy. My mom's cousin's best friends is friend with Paul Rudd's sister. So I pretty much know Ant-Man. My paternal grandfather is kinda a local celebrity. He was a good engineer and almost had a building named after him. My maternal grandfather owned a construction company in the 60s and built Wildcat Apartments and some other buildings. I believe one of my maternal great-grandfathers was a famous farmer. Won a load of dairy awards. Was in a ton of farmers' magazines. and owned what is now considered a historical landmark in Kansas. Bruno Taco Falcon. He used to dance with Michael Jackson. I consider him famous in my eyes.